Sneaky soccer buys. You got any names that come to mind? For the past week, I've been looking at the guys who not only score the goals, but they assist their teammates. And I was shocked to find out that there are only 7 players across Europe who have double-digit goals and assists. That's what's been on my mind. Hey, what's going on, everyone? Andrew at St. Croix Cards on Instagram, and welcome into another episode of the SlabStox FC Show. Couldn't be more excited to talk about not only the guys who score the goals, but also assist their teammates. And that's really what I've been looking at. I was shocked to find out that there are only 7 players across Europe who have double digits in both goals and assists. Now, some are going to come as no surprise to you because they are great. Some would even say they're the GOATs. Now, others, though, might be brand new names for you, or they're names you already know. And maybe it's time that we start to look even closer at what cards are out there and available, as some of them don't have many cards at all. We're going to dive right in today with the one, the only, Lionel Messi. We got to talk Messi because Messi is the magician when it comes to goals and assists. Now, I know he's 35 years old, coming off that World Cup win, and what a win it was. But it was fascinating to me, of the 17 years that I looked at for Messi, 13 of them, he has double digits in both goals and assists. Now, the crazier part of the statistic is, of the other 4 years he didn't do it, in 3 of those years, he had 9 assists and was one shy of that double-double. Now, this guy has just consistently, year in and year out, produced some amazing performances. I, for one, have just been really thankful that I've gotten to watch him play, first at Barcelona, now with him over at PSG. But through 24 matches at PSG in League One this year, he's got 13 goals and 13 assists. So solid numbers. I know that PSG is out of the Champions League. They haven't really been performing that well in League One either as of late. But Messi has still put together a pretty nice season. And so we're going to be looking at that, that Prism, that 2022 Panini Prism World Cup. This is the blue Prism out of 299. It is a PSA 9 that I want to look at. And just a couple sales that have kind of happened over the course of time. We're going to start all the way back in March 1st. We had a fixed price sale of $300 for that PSA 9. February 13th was $261. March 6th, we see prices of $400 in March 6th. March 10th, we saw $271. And then finally here, just this past week, March 29th, that PSA 9 did $300. So we can kind of see that the prices have fluctuated a little bit with Messi's Prism, which I think is a little bit to be expected. Coming off that World Cup win, we're starting to see more and more of the World Cup Prism stuff graded. So my suspect is that the population counts are going up a little bit as well, but you do see some fluctuation in the prices as well. But some of the prices I think is interesting as we look here at the end of March comparative to January and February, even early April here. I do want to talk about the 2018 Panini Treble. This is the gold out of 25. A lot of people say this treble set is very similar to, what other sports have in the PMGs, with that kind of that foil background. But this is the gold out of 25. This price sold March 27th for $3,400 for a PSA 8. When we look at, previous sales go all the way back to December 7th of 2022. If you notice that date, December 7th, we are still right in the middle of the World Cup. So $3,440. And then December 26th, just after Christmas, the PSA 8 sold for $2,950. And so we're kind of, back up to a price that was similar during the World Cup. And so it's important to me. And I don't know if it's important for you, but we're starting to see prices rise. So, of course, Messi, not a sneaky buy because everyone knows who Messi is. But I think it's just important to recognize just the consistency in goals and assists year in and year out for Messi. Now, the other card that I did want to also take a look at, and it's one of the ones that I really enjoy aesthetically. I think it's a great looking card. I love the black color blast. So this is out of 2020, 2021 Panini Obsidian. This is the PSA 10 black color blast. Sold April 3rd. For $2,630. So pretty solid sale, especially when you look at some of the sales that have been out there in the past. Going back to October in the run-up to the World Cup, October 4th, that PSA 10 sold for $2,638.38. December 19th, so during the end of the World Cup, you saw that PSA 10 sold for $2,950. And then I don't know what was going on at the end of December, early January, but two of the sales that I pulled off a card ladder showed that December 25th, one sold for $1,500, and then one sold January 9th for $1,425. And so we're back up to kind of around similar World Cup prices. So it's important to me. It's healthy to see that and that movement for Messi prices. I really like to see prices go up. I know that means maybe limitations of what you can buy. We were talking a few months ago. The prices were down, and this could be a good time to buy. And we're starting to see prices creep up. But for me, Messi's just one of those guys that you can't go wrong at. Now that he has his World Cup, all the Ballon d'Ors that he has, and you think about 13 out of 17 seasons where he's had double-digit goals and assists. As a former history teacher, I always like to ask myself the question, how will history remember Messi? And for me, it's a no-brainer. I mean, we look at the Pelés of the world, the Maradonas of the world, now the Messis and Ronaldos of the world. I always ask myself, what are we going to remember? And I don't think we're going to remember anything negative from those players. And you kind of see that in the Maradona stuff, that we're not talking about some of the issues that he had off the pitch and throughout his career. But here we're sitting there talking, for Messi, I think the future looks bright for Messi. Now that he's got the World Cup, he's got his Champions Leagues, he's got his Ballon d'Ors. We were gonna remember him extremely fondly when all is said and done, whenever that is. Whenever he decides to hang it up. But some interesting pricing there for Messi. The other one that really surprised me is as we talk about so few guys, goals and assists in double digits, and one of those players is Neymar. Now, Neymar, 31 years old, was injured during the World Cup and now is injured again here in Ligue 1 in France. He's only played 20 matches in Ligue 1 this season, and he is one of those guys that also has double digits, 13 goals, and 11 assists. And the card that I kind of first wanted to sit and chat about is the 2018 Topps Chrome. Now, this is the blue refractor. It is a PSA 10. It is out of 150. And the thing that really surprised me, post-World Cup, Brazil gets knocked out. You see a sale January 23rd at auction, sold for $86 for this PSA 10. Now, fast forward to March 28th. A PSA 10 of the 2018 Topps Chrome Neymar refractor out of 150 does $105. Now, to me, it's an interesting, as we chart Neymar, because he hasn't played since the middle of February. So over a month has gone by since he's played in the league. And here we see prices, even after a rough World Cup, and you saw, an $86 sale January 23rd, we're seeing prices increase for Neymar. So then it gets me to thinking okay, is Neymar's pricing, increasing because of it's Neymar and he's doing well, or are we starting to see just cards in general moving in a northward direction? I don't know the answer to that question. I'd love to know your thoughts, so leave them in the comments below. But, it was interesting to me that his pricing is starting to climb a little bit and he's not playing. Maybe it has something to do with the rumors of maybe possibly transferring this summer, where he was going to get out of Paris. Is he going to make a move to the Premier League? Are we going to see Neymar in the Premier League? That would be pretty exciting. I would be excited for that, to see Neymar play in the Premier League. I think that would be an interesting dynamic to add, another wrinkle to add to the Premier League, but really some interesting stuff from Neymar's pricing. And then the other card that really kind of caught my attention, 2014 Panini Prism World Cup. That first Prism set for soccer. I really, I love the color that comes out of this set. So this is the red out of 149. This is a solid sale, I think. March 26th, this sold for $456. So PSA 9 selling for $456. And if we look at the other sales there, 456 is the one that just happened. August 21st of 2022, so going back a little bit, $504. That's kind of in that build up to the World Cup. But in October, right before the World Cup, we had a $359 sale. And so being in the 450 range, I think is really healthy for Neymar's market. Truthfully, being hurt, not really producing well in the World Cup, Brazil not kind of meeting the expectations a lot of people had for them. And then finally you see, him not playing in League One, but cards still selling for pretty well. And so that, as we leave League One behind, we focus on maybe a younger player, 35 Messi, 31 Neymar, Randal, Kolo, Muani is kind of one of those guys that has come out of nowhere this year in the Bundesliga. So 25 matches in the Bundesliga. He's got 12 goals and 12 assists for Eintracht Frankfurt. Who just got a win yesterday, the DFB Pokal. I think they're in the semifinals now, so they're doing well there. But really, for a guy that's now being linked across Europe to all the big clubs, is he going to get his big move? The thing for me is just not that many cards out there for him. And that's going to be maybe a theme for a couple of these guys that we're going to talk about. So Muani, 24, Eintracht Frankfurt, he does have a Topps Deco card that is out there. You can see that on the screen if you're watching. If you're not, this is the blue parallel out of 49, but there's not a ton of sales. We're not looking at a ton of sales here. And so this is a sale that happened March 5th. This Deco blue out of 49 sold for $98.15 raw. And I think, the price is there because of the lack of supply. There's not a whole lot of supply out there, and demand is pretty high for a guy that consistently is still producing extremely well. I think he had both goals yesterday in their the DFB Pokal match. So that was, it's good to see. I think they won 2-0. So moving on to the semifinals, but he's producing, and so he's gaining a lot of attention, gathering a lot of attention from a lot of clubs around Europe. And I'm really interested to see where he lands because, if you got a guy who can not only score the goals, but can set up their teammates and be a team player with 12 assists, that tells me a lot about Muani and what he can bring to the table. Now, he does have that 2022 Topps Bundesliga summer signings. So this is from just the straight Topps product, not Topps Chrome, not Topps Sapphire, but just Topps. This is the purple hollow out of 25. This one sold all the way back in February for $105 raw. So we can see, that some of those sales for cards that are numbered, serial numbered and are tough to find because there's just not a whole lot of them out there. But I will tell you that, I think change is on the horizon for Muani at least because he did make the checklist for Topps First Edition. Now, I always like to do a little bit of a deeper dive into Topps First Edition because it's a good kind of benchmark for me as I look through the rookie class of who are the rookies that Topps is putting in First Edition, which might give you a little bit more of an insight to what rookies people might be chasing through the rest of 2023. Now, that's just me, and I'm sure Topps can make and will make a few changes, but I like to look at that rookie checklist because, in Topps Chrome or, even Stadium Club or even Merlin, are we going to see some of these guys that are in this checklist kind of be ever present in those checklists as well? So I always like to look at Muani is in this checklist, so be on the lookout. That just came out, I think, end of March 29th, I think was released for Topps First Edition. So be on the lookout for any Muani kind of, even some of the base you might find, but even some of the numbered stuff that might come out of there as well. But that's, Muani is lighting it up in Bundesliga, and he's the only one in the Bundesliga that is actually double digits in goals and assists. Now, as we move into Serie A in Italy, there's one guy that has been on a lot of people's minds as he's kind of taken Serie A by storm. And I'm going to do my best here. Khvicha Kvaratskhelia, I think is how you say it. If I butchered that, I am so sorry. But Khvicha is just dominating with Napoli. To think that Napoli has Khvicha and Victor Osimhen, they are doing really well in Serie A, and a lot of that has to do with him. He's from Georgia. He's got 12 goals, 12 assists on the year in 24 matches, so very similar to Muani, 22 years old, and a lot of people are talking, where's he going to go? Is he going to get a transfer move to a massive club here over the summer? I think it's interesting. Not only are we in title races right now, and your teams, Arsenal is in the heat of a title race. Never thought I would say that here this year, but you have teams across the globe in title races. Napoli seems to have it pretty sewn up. I know they had a rough loss against AC Milan over the weekend. I think they dropped 4-0. But they are in firm control of League One, of Serie A this year. They're looking to win the title, and he's got a lot to do with it. But again, we're looking at a guy who has been producing and playing extremely well, but doesn't have a whole lot of cards. And the fact that if you're watching this on YouTube, you're seeing that I posted a 2022 Match Attacks 101 Road to the UNL Finals. This is a Blue Crystal PSA 9. This is the extent. Like, if you're looking for Khvicha cards, you're going to find nothing flagship, nothing Panini, nothing Topps, or Topps like Topps Chrome or Topps, Stadium Club or Merlin. Like, he just doesn't have any cards out there. So this one, this Blue Crystals sold April 2nd. So it just sold on Sunday for $200 on eBay, and that was a fixed price. But if you go online, if you're searching for these cards, I tell people, like, if you're going to shows and you're looking through, value boxes, a lot of times, Match Attack stuff is just thrown in those, those value boxes. And I would go through and I would be looking, can we find any Khvicha Kvaratskhelia, and I know I may have not said that right again, but, those are the type of things where you can find them because not too many people are searching for, Match Attack's cards. But I'm really excited for if and when he does actually get that card, because I think there is a lot of interest in him. There's a lot of interest in him from clubs all across Europe, but it will be really great when he finally gets that first kind of flagship card, maybe even a card with the RC logo. Because if you notice the Match Attack stuff, it doesn't have that logo present. Now, another player that I think is important to talk about. Now, this is a player that got a move in January after kind of a really great start in the Eredivisie. Cody Gakpo, 23 years old. He now plays for Liverpool in the Premier League, but he spent the first part of the year in the Eredivisie. He was with PSV. Really got off to a fast start. 14 games. He was a part of 21 goals. He had 9 goals and 12 assists. Had a really great showing at the World Cup, and then got the move to Liverpool. In 11 games with Liverpool, he has 4 goals. So I just decided, as I did my research, I said I can't not include Cody Gakpo, because if you put the season collectively as a whole, he's sitting at 13 goals and he's got 12 assists and a strong showing in the World Cup. Now, he's kind of gone a little bit cold in the Premier League. He didn't hit the ground running and scoring goals in bunches and bunches like we've seen players like Erling Haaland do. And so it's affected his pricing. And I think that's something that we should kind of clue in and take a look at here today. But Liverpool has had their struggles here as of late. I know yesterday they had the 0-0 draw against Chelsea. And so, Cody Gakpo has struggled to find the back of the net in as much as he was doing at PSV. And so I think you got some of these guys, young guys, as they make the transition to big clubs like Liverpool, there is going to be some time needed for them to adapt to their surroundings. Not everyone is going to score a ton of goals like Erling Haaland as he moves from the Bundesliga to the Premier League. That just doesn't happen. I think we get spoiled with things like that, or at least I do, and I expect every transfer to hit the ground running and score a ton of goals. And so Cody Gakpo is 2022 Prism Purple World Cup Purple Mojo out of 49. Now, this is a PSA 10. Now, from listening to other content people and content creators, one of the things that kind of keeps standing out to me is that it seems to be hard to gem some of these World Cup Prism cards. Now, I don't know. I don't have all the data behind it, but from what I've heard from other people, it's not the easiest thing to gem these. So this is a PSA 10 Purple Mojo out of 49. This sold on April 1st for $150.37. Now, I thought, that was kind of a low price comparative to what has happened in the past. Now, January 9th. Now, I know January 9th, early 2023, so we're post-World Cup, just post-World Cup, and, Cody Gakpo is probably going to get his move, but a PSA 10 of this Purple Mojo out of 49 sold for $620. Now, at the end of January, the 23rd, the same Mojo out of 49, PSA 10, sold for $380. And now here most recently, April 1st, we see a sale of $150.37. So here in the course of just about, January to April 1st, so January, February, March, April, about 4 months, we've seen the price go from $620 to $150.37. Now, 23-year-old Cody Gakpo with Liverpool, I think, he's in a big club. It's going to take him time. They haven't been in the greatest run of form. I think it's going to take some time for him to adapt, but I still think he's quality and he's going to do well for Liverpool moving forward. And so this is one of those where I look at it and goes, maybe, looking what he's been able to produce for a year collectively, not just in the 11 games in the Premier League, but when you look at the season as a whole, is that a sneaky play? Is Cody Gakpo, struggles right now and Liverpool struggle, an opportunity to get in on some of these kind of low numbered, Prism cards, or even if you're looking for something a little bit different, like, you've got the RC logo of the 2022 National Treasures. Now, this is a Sapphire that we're looking at, 2 prices that have sold during the World Cup. So that's out of 25. The first one came out December 13th. It sold for $430. December 15th, another one sold for $449. And then we fast forward to March 31st. March 31st, the same Sapphire out of National Treasures. These are all raw. They're not graded. Sold for $149. So pricing is definitely down on Cody Gakpo, and it'll be interesting. But I do like some of this stuff because it does have the RC logo, and a lot of people look for that. I don't necessarily, as a soccer collector, I don't need the RC logo. But for a lot of people who are newer to the hobby or have come from different sports, i.e. football or basketball, even baseball, to see an RC logo like that is important to them. And so some of this stuff, I think, Cody Gakpo for me is one of those guys where it's just kind of, it's interesting to me because it seems that pricing has gone down quite a bit here over the past couple months. But the one guy that we have to talk about who has all of his goals and all of his assists in the Premier League this year is the one, the only Bukayo Saka, 21-year-old Arsenal kid. I can't heap more praises on this kid. I love Bukayo Saka. Absolutely love Bukayo Saka. And not just for his production on the pitch. He has been influential in Arsenal's title run this year. And he is 12 goals and 10 assists in 29 matches. Not only is he scoring goals, and some of those goals are just incredible if you've seen them. If not, go back and watch the highlights and some of the goals that he scored this year. But he's assisting his teammates. And you see that in all of the interviews. I appreciate this kid and his humbleness in his interviews, the way he praises his coaches and his teammates. He from the outside looking in, he seems like the kind of kid that I would want to coach. He's hardworking. You can tell that he's extremely he's a go-getter. I mean, he's extremely competitive. He wants to win. But he is so humble in his interviews, and I just appreciate him. Maybe that's because I'm a huge Arsenal fan. I'm just so thankful that he is on Arsenal. But we're looking at the 2020-2021 Panini Prism Premier League Red Prism. I got to throw a color match in there. This is the PSA 10, and we do see prices kind of fluctuate, but he's been hanging around that $200 mark. July 3rd of 2022, so middle of July last year, PSA 10 sold for $227.50. February 12th of this year, you saw a PSA 10 sell for $192. And then April 4th, you saw a best offer of $203.65. So we're hovering around that $200 mark for that color match Prism Premier League 2021 on PSA 10 out of 149. So there's quite a few sales that we can look at, but pretty solid sales for Bukayo Saka. Well, the one card that interests me, and I thought I'd throw it out there, I want your opinion on these. As a history teacher, maybe it's a throwback, but I'm digging these case hits from the groovy case hits, the flashback to the 70s. I don't know what it is. I think they're pretty super cool. So I've been kind of watching and monitoring these as well. But here's Bukayo Saka's groovy case hit out of Prism this year, 2022-2023 Panini Prism. March 24th, you had a raw sale of $267.23. March 29th, you saw one sell for $210. And then fast forward to March 30th, just a day later, you saw a fixed price for $350. I just think they're aesthetically, they're a really cool card. I think it was a pretty neat idea. Look at me using the word neat. Neat idea. I think the cards look great, and it kind of is a blast from the past and kind of brings in, that 70s feel. 60s, 70s feel to it. So I really like these cards, and I like some of the inserts here in the new Panini Prism World Cup. Bukayo Saka still pumping in the goals. And now maybe as we kind of finish up here today, there are guys that you might not know too well. The one guy that kind of stood out to me, as you go through all these players that are goals and assists, Joseph Paintsil, I think is how you say it. He's in the Belgian league. He plays for Genk. Who is also doing extremely well in their league, but he's got 12 goals and 12 assists. But really, I don't even know too much about him. I kind of was doing some research, but he doesn't have many cards at all. One of them is a Match Attacks card all the way back to 2019. Now, this is the Topps Match Attack Champions League card, I believe. And the only reason I know or can see this card is because there is a Erling Haaland of this card from 2019. So it's interesting to me that this here, but he's only 25 years old, playing in that Belgian league. And it'll be interesting, if you're putting in that great of season, does that cause maybe other teams to take notice? Is there going to be a transfer here as well? But not a ton of cards there. But there are some honorable mentions. And I do want to throw this out. Some names you may know, some names you might not know. And again, I think one of the coolest things about the soccer community is there's so many leagues, there's so many players, there's so many learning opportunities. And that's for me, like all of these players that we're looking at today, some of them like the Messis and the Neymars. Yeah, we all know them. But for me, it's always all about the research. And I don't know about you, but I try to do my own research to come up with the guys that I'm looking at. Maybe it's goals and assists. Maybe there's just some statistics that stand out to you that you're like, that's who I'm researching. That's who I'm looking at. Because I think ultimately I like to make decisions on what I buy and the cards that I acquire based on the performances on the pitch, not the voices that I listen to who just tell me that they're great players. Yeah, I like to know and do my own research to know that they're there. So a couple other names that could join this double-digit club here in the next couple weeks, which I'm pretty sure they will. The first one is Jamal Musiala, 20 years old, Bayern Munich. He's got 11 goals and 9 assists in the league this year, so extremely close to that double-double. But one of the things that impresses me about Jamal Musiala is just the production on the pitch. We've had multiple conversations in previous weeks about Jude Bellingham class. Jude, Musiala, Pedri. I think like Noah Lang's in that group as well. And you can fill in with probably many more players as well. But one of the guys who stands out to me is Musiala because his production on the pitch and what he's been able to do tells me that, he's got a very, very bright future moving forward. Now, there's other players that are from that same class that haven't produced as well as Musiala. So I think he's coming real soon. I think we're going to see some great, continued production from him. And it's still at just 20 years old at Bayern Munich, one of the biggest clubs in the world, the biggest club in Germany. I think he's destined to have a fantastic career. Another one is Antoine Griezmann, at Atletico Madrid. He's 32 years old and still producing 9 goals, 9 assists, just doing really well for Atletico. And I think, he's still poised to positive production. I know there was that whole issue with Barcelona and Madrid and the transfer fees, but I think that's all behind him, and he's playing pretty well. Finally, the last one is maybe a name you don't hear of, and really again this whole idea of no cards. Mike Trésor, 23 years old, Genk as well. So you got both of those guys playing for Genk. Trésor has 8 goals and 18 assists in the league this year. He's got a couple stickers out there that are floating around, and you can maybe find here or there, but no cards. So for part of me is thinking, is Genk going to get into some of this product? If they're, as they're winning their league, are they going to kind of qualify for Champions League, and are we going to start to see actual cards come out? I'd be happy about that, as not many people may know about these guys or what they're doing over there. But this is just simply an idea of, are you doing your due diligence? Are you looking into players? Are you seeing their stats, what they're actually doing on the pitch compared to just, knowing name recognition, I think is a big thing for me. So that's what's been on my mind this week, as we've looked at, guys who are
are doing the double-double. They've got double-digit goals and double-digit assists. I think some of these guys are sneaky if you're finding some, cards that, that are out there, if you can find them, Khvicha, some of those other guys, even Muani. They don't have a lot of stuff out there. Now, I think that stuff is coming, but knowing of these players and knowing to look for these guys, whether it's, whatever platform you're purchasing, you might have a little bit more knowledge than the person who also, it might be by looking at the same cards or maybe not knowing that that's what they're producing on the pitch. So that was just my thoughts this week as we looked at those. I appreciate it. I would love to know your comments. I hope I didn't miss any of the guys that are double-double in goals and assists. I don't think I did, but if I did, please leave a comment below. Let me know if I missed any or if you have any other guys that are, kind of sneaky plays right now. It doesn't have to be guys that are goals and assists, but if you got guys that you think are sneaky plays in the hobby, let me know. I'm always down to learn more and learn about players that I may not know a ton about. So that's going to wrap up this episode this week. I thank you for listening to this point. If you have any questions or comments, again, let me know at St. Croix Cards on Instagram. I'm always down to DM back and forth and talk soccer. I love soccer, greatest sport in the world. And we'll look to see you guys next time on the SlabStox FC Show. Have a good one.